Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. John Riffe is with Fixed Operations at DealerBuilt, a great friend of the automotive retail community and the Fixed Ops community. John, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thanks, Ted. Happy to be here.
Good to see you, my friend. What a year in retail. So much happening, right? I mean, you couldn't have even imagined, let alone written this book, a year or two ago.
No, it's kind of like your tagline for this session. It's it's dare to dream. So we hope it's not a nightmare for anybody.
Let's talk about that. Let's kind of get that out into the open. How would you define right now, a dealership's or your fixed operations performance? Is it a dream or something else?
It's a really interesting question, and the perspective you put on it is, I guess it is all about perception. If you perceive your operation as having challenges, well, then maybe it's a nightmare, and you want to turn that into a really nice, fulfilling dream, not a nightmare you wake up from wondering, what have I just gone through? But all too often that's the case. In the past, I don't know if there's been a focus on the back. Great colleague of mine, he used to correct me every time I said the back of the store and refocused me and said, remember, it's the backbone. So that's how you turn that nightmare into a dream, is you work on that backbone.
And, so much happening in that. Really, it's kind of even become the front of the house, with inventory shortages this past year, the chip shortage, lack of new car inventory. Who could have imagined, what's happened with used vehicles value? So there's so much focus right now on service parts and body shop.
That's true. And it's not that it's a new emerging concept. It's an old one that's been around forever. There is a lot more focus. That tends to keep me more and more busy every week. And, those are the good things that are happening in the back. That concept of absorption becomes refocused. And, what at one time was, just kind of the ugly back of the house has become the forefront and a great opportunity for a revenue generating and really customer defined experience with all the challenges of supply shortages and such. So everybody wants to work a lot harder at making the back the front.
John, you're exactly right. And a lot of focus now from dealers as well on service and parts, where it may not have been as important a few years ago. John, what do you see as the single most critical roadblock, if you will, in maintaining successful and efficient fixed operations at the dealership?
Well, it's again, not a new concept. It's always been that of communication, whether that's communication with the customer, whether that's communication with internally within the departments between sales, parts, service, and accounting. All of those, it takes a village, and that communication, that's really what ties. That's what processes are all about. And that's what, unfortunately, we have to continue to refine and refocus on those processes and those procedures in the fixed ops department to move towards better serving our clients, whether they be internally the new or used car department or externally our customer base, which that's why we show up every day. And they're really the guys who write the check.
That used car department reconditioning is now on the forefront. John, we didn't even talk about reconditioning 2 years ago at the roundtable, yet now it's such a big focal point in the things we discuss. A few years back, it was a matter of parts and service coming together. Now we see service and sales. The discussions are, let's get all that together as one inside the dealership.
Well, again, with fewer and fewer opportunities and fewer opportunities for a affordable, or really, the time in the past used to be that there was an abundance of used vehicles and there wasn't as much urgency about getting them through the shop quickly. And, that's back to where the communication key is. And it's one thing communicating with the new car or used car department about getting that vehicle that's just hit the ground out. But, when you intertwine parts and parts availability into those things, you really have to start thinking outside the box. And if you weren't doing that before, it's become a necessity now. It's how do we obtain those parts in a timely manner to be able to get that used vehicle on the ground as quickly and efficiently and effectively as possible to make it available to that, our greatest customer, our most captive customer. In the parts world, it's the shop, and in the shop, a lot of cases, it's the used car and the new car departments.
Everyone, we're talking today to John Riffe. He's with Fixed Operations with DealerBuilt. Very respected voice in our community. John, a lot of the Fixed Ops Roundtable family have mentioned your name, and it's held, like I said, in high regard. What would you say, if looking at it, if I had to look, let's say, as a dealer or general manager, as a defining indicator in a well-run fixed ops department, from your experience, what would you point to? What would you say that is?
Well, on the parts side of it, it's always about, everything's about gross, whether that is on the service side of the operation or on the parts side of the operation. It's more challenging now than ever to get. It's not, in the past months, I've probably been called on more often to review parts grosses and the challenges with holding a gross. Manufacturers are not always helpful in making those things happen. More and more remote managed inventory programs in place, more and more challenges with them, again, with the supply chain and such. If you can't sell it, if you can't get it, you can't sell it. And when you can get your hands on it, you definitely want to get a reasonable return on investment. And along with that parts department side of the coin, there are bigger and bigger challenges about getting that inventory. And then when you do get it, what do you do with it? I've said years and years in talking with parts departments, we're not buying parts to warehouse them. All too often that's the case. You can't fall in love with those parts. We have to acquire them, put them on the shelf. We have to have a place to store them. We have to feed them. We have to keep them warm, dry, clean. It's just like raising a kid. And you don't want to fall in love with them. You buy those parts to sell for a return on investment. So it's important that you're reviewing on a regular basis, not only your parts pricing, any matrix you may have in place. It has to meet the demand, and it has to be reasonable, or it turns into a part that you own and you love, and pretty soon you're taking care of it in old age, and you don't want that. And that on the service side of the world, of course, we're always looking at effective labor rate, but shop efficiency is more and more important. The end result and the common in both parts and service now is, servicing that customer's needs, whether it's warranty, whether it is a customer pay job where parts are impossible at times to acquire. You want to be mindful that when you do receive those parts, that you're notifying both the service advisors, the service operation, and whatever your plan there is for managing those special order parts, getting the customer notified in a timely manner so that no time is lost in maintaining that customer CSI, but also in the shop efficiency and in your parts department return.
And you're right. Going back to the parts, it's not just the parts, but service needs those parts to perform the labor, and it all works hand in hand. And that labor is so important. And, we've had, as I'm sure you're aware, a lot of talk about technician shortages and things like that, being able to retain and attract new technicians as well. And John, a big part of the discussion we're hearing now at the roundtable comes back to dealership culture, and that culture that starts at the top at the dealership. And I know you see that. You're aware of it. You work with a lot of retailers. Would you like to speak to that at all? Because I think that seems to have an overriding prominence in fixed operations.
Yeah, so many years ago, being part of at that time a Ford dealership, that Ford's big initiative was at the time XL2000 that came about in like 1999. And that was customer CSI through employee CSI. And it was about changing and shifting that culture. It's great to go into a store where they understand that. It's not impossible to change it. If the culture is from the negative side, everybody in the organization sees it, not only the employees, but as well the customers when they come in the door. And when a store understands that culture and has a very positive culture, it has an impact on their customers, and customers want to come back. It's not a new concept. It's one that the same as reviewing your performance on any of your reporting in parts and service. You definitely want to keep an upper hand on what that customer's CSI is, and if that makes the store a lot better at defining a culture that is a positive one. Those stores that are very good at it perform well. They're constantly working on it. I happened to be in a store earlier in the month, and I was around when they were doing a kind of a monthly employee meeting, and it took me back to my roots. The culture is not just the employees caring about the customer, but it's the ownership caring about the employees, and it's an important thing. It's one that all too often goes unchecked or really unmeasured, but it's real, and it's the times we're in, and it's more important now than ever when there are shortages, not only in parts but also in personnel.
That's right. Yeah.
Those that have a positive culture draw the prime people, or retain the prime people in the prime areas of the dealership, and that's an important thing.
You've got a lot of new tools at DealerBuilt. I've watched as your company has grown, and a lot of expansion, I would say, in the past year. A lot of new things that you've put on the table for our dealers. Here we are, middle of November, about maybe 6 weeks or so left to go in the year, up against the holidays. What advice, John, last question, that would you have for our dealer audience looking forward into 2023, with all the talk of EVs coming and these shortages still continuing for some time? What do we need to be focused on going into the new year?
Well, the key word there is focus, and whether you're focusing on that, the mindset of the store that makes up the culture of the store, whether you're focusing on that or whether you're focusing on your customer base, trying to keep them as happy as you can. The one thing you do have to keep happy is yourself. So you have to be thankful about showing up and coming to work and doing the best that you can every day. And I know that sounds like an old cliche, but I had a general manager who still to this day I speak with, and he pulled me aside one day and he goes, you make the decision when you get out of bed every morning what the day is going to be like. Before your foot hits the floor of the bed, it's what's the day going to be like. And if you're doing anything but thinking that's a positive thing, you're selling yourself short. So that's back kind of the Thanksgiving theme I know we're approaching is be thankful what you have and make the best out of every day, because all too often, they are numbered. And whether you believe that or not, it's true. So, if you can show up and feel like you're doing the best you can every day for your customer, for your employer, and for yourself, you've succeeded.
John Riffe, DealerBuilt is a great resource for our industry. I know a lot of dealers are with DealerBuilt. Others are and will consider it. If our audience wants to reach out to you, into the DealerBuilt family with more questions, what's the best way for them to do that?
The email that's scrolling there across the bottom of the screen, you can always reach out to us through our support number, which if you want to jot it down, 1-800-499-1914. If you're not a customer and you have questions, please reach out. If you've got questions directly of me, you can send me an email or reach out in that number, and they know where I'm at on the planet most days.
I think at our last event, we had so many of the DealerBuilt family with us at the event. So it was a great honor to, meet Dan and the Vista Dash and, the rest of the team there, Michael, and of course, Veronica and John. On behalf of the Fixed Ops community, I want to wish you and your family a very happy Thanksgiving.
All right, thanks, and the same out to everyone who's a part of this. Kind of a cool thing, dare to dream, and that's well, it's not only a pretty profound statement; it's a call to action. So
Yep.
dare to dream.
John Riffe, everybody, with DealerBuilt here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.